it'd be great if everybody knew that you don't have to live the way that you do. And I'm saying the way that you do because I was there. That's how I lived most of my life up until I was about 50. And when I just had enough of the personal drama, the personal issues, the upsets, the sadness, just all those different things that happen when you lose your job or you lose a partner, or your son yells at you and it has an effect on you and you get hurt. You don't feel like you're good enough, all those sorts of stories that we carry around in our everyday life. And I was that person until I felt like I'd had enough and I just wanted to be at peace in my life, but still be in joy and happiness and live my normal life. And what I did was I decided that everybody talks about, and I didn't want to wake up or anything like that, so we'll start from there. But everybody talks about being in the moment and being present with what's happening now and having the experience of just being here. But what I found was the majority of people, including myself, was never present, was never here now, and was never here with what is. We do when it's convenient for us, when it suits us, when it fits in. I'm going to be present here. So then you're present, and you try to be present with what you're doing, and it feels like it's an effort all the time. So what I did was I just went, whatever happens, I'm going to be here with whatever it is, no matter what. So I felt like I had to be 100% with it. And I made that commitment to myself like I wanted to have a career. And I was going to focus, and I was going to go to university, and I was going to study, and I was going to do that. So what happened was, if anything arose in me, like my son, maybe he yelled at me and said, "Mum, you're a blah, blah, blah," or "You're not fair." And then what would happen sometimes is that it would shake me. I would feel upset. Oh, my son doesn't care, or he doesn't love me, or my friend does it, or somebody else, or my partner. And I would start to feel upset inside. So instead of responding back to them, instead of going, "No, that's not right, I do care, I'm this, I'm that," or whatever, or walking away, or yelling, slamming the door, I don't know, the things that we do sometimes. And I decided to shut up and not say anything, not respond, not do anything, but sit down as soon as I could and close my eyes and have the experience of feeling like shit, or feeling upset, or feeling really hurt, feeling really sad. Because as soon as I sat down, and maybe it started off with, "Oh, that's mean," and then if I sat with the feeling of what it felt like for me, then would arise sadness as well, and then hurt, and then I wasn't good enough. And once you sit with one thing, it just seems to snowball. And so I just sat quietly with all those things until nothing was there. And that could have been half an hour, 5 minutes, it was generally an hour. But I committed myself to never moving until it was finished, to have the experience as if you were on a roller coaster ride, or you were on a car drive, or you were swimming in the ocean. It wasn't finished until I was finished having that experience. And some of them are really difficult to sit with. Some of them you definitely want to get out of yourself. You don't want to be experiencing the pain and the suffering and the tears rolling down my face, and I wouldn't move to wipe them away, because I noticed at the beginning, as soon as I started to move, it like displaced that energy that was going on inside of me. And sometimes it was hot and cold, sometimes it was really tight, sometimes I felt sick, being with some of the things that happen in your life. And I find that as soon as you move and you do or you say something, it's gone. And then you're in the next moment and it's not there, or it's shifted, or it's less than. So then you get to experience it again next week or the week after, just a little bit, and then you know the technique to move away from it. Or then you start putting boundaries in place. Don't talk to me like that. And it's like, I said, bring it on. Everybody, tell me how you see me. If you think I'm a bitch, tell me I'm a bitch. If you think I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. You're not good enough. You're not getting it right. It was like, give me everything that you feel that I am, and I'll look and I'll see. And I figured that if somebody told me I wasn't a very nice person, and I sat there and was like, am I not a nice person? And I'd sit and feel what that felt like, and sometimes nothing would happen. And I'd check and I'd triple check, am I not a nice person? And if there was nothing there, then I felt like, okay, so maybe they're just saying that. Maybe that's not really true, because not everything that people tell you is true. But if it hits something inside of me, then it must be. Something's going on for me. So after doing that solidly for 3 months, sitting, and I had a business, and I had a partner, and I had a son, and I had a property. So I was sitting wherever I could, in the car, stop on the side of the road, whatever. That was my commitment. And then one day, it was like 4 in the morning or 5 in the morning when I was half awake, and this voice just said, have you had enough of being Diane? And I was like, that's a bit weird, just in my half sleep. Back to sleep, woke up at, the normal hour, and I went and got out of bed, and as soon as I stood up out of bed, I was in a totally different reality. I wasn't in this reality that everybody lives in anymore. And it was so cool. And it still is really cool. So what happens is I walked around the house knowing that Diane lived there and that Diane did these things, and that was Diane's kitchen, but it wasn't mine. I had no association to it at all. Oh, this is what Diane wears. Oh, okay. Oh, this is what Diane does. So then I went outside and I sat on the veranda, and it must have been ages, and I remember just watching the ants. And then all these birds flew around, and I'd lived on this property for 20 years, and the next minute there was like every bird you could imagine, and they were all on the grass, and they were in the banana trees and the fruit trees, and they were all chirping and just going on. I was like, wow, this is cool. And then they disappeared. And I lived like that, in like a no world at all, and nobody. I didn't have a body. And there wasn't anybody here. And one day I remember touching my leg and go, oh, I've got a leg. Oh, I've got a body. And it was like that. I hadn't actually associated with having any physical form. So then I started to have a body, but the world was still a different place for me to live in. I didn't associate with myself, and I still don't associate. So when I see people, there's no separation between you and me, and I'm everything that you are, and I'm no different to you, because that's why it's so ordinary, is because I was you and I relate to who you are, but I'm also not you. So it's this thing, and that goes on for everything. All of nature, all of the world, I am all of that, but I'm none of it as well. So it just gets really confusing to be able to talk about it, but maybe after 12 years, I have a different sense of it now, and I can express it a little bit different, but it's still not the expression of the experience. And then even when I use different words and I say experience, there is nobody here experiencing anything, because to experience something, there needs to be a body, there needs to be someone here having an experience. So first there's somebody having an experience, then there's somebody watching somebody having an experience, and then there's no one. and it's just all happening. Everything's just happening. And that's how every day is. So every day can just be moment to moment. It doesn't have a future and it doesn't have a past. So then when people say stay in the moment, you can't stay in a moment because it's a moment and a moment. So everything's just always happening. And there's never a finish, a start and a finish, which is a moment. So that's sort of where I've come to and trying to express how it is. And life still happens for me. I still work, I still do everything. But the greatest part that I really want to impart today is that you can be ordinary, you can be out there in the world, you can do whatever you've got to do. But when your car breaks down and your son yells at you and your partner leaves you, or you find your partner in bed with another woman and you stand there and go, wow, that's interesting. And then you leave. And that's how it was for me. I could stand there and I didn't know he was going off with somebody else. And I was just like, wow, that's interesting. And so nothing goes on. I don't get upset and do the big drama and yell and scream and make him wrong or anything like that. So when you can do that and live a life where you don't have the roller coaster ride, you can all have that too. But you just got to clean out all that stuff that resides in there from when you were a child. All your beliefs, all your ideas and all your concepts have to go. And you have to be empty. To be able to awaken into the nothingness, you have to be nothing, with no name and no anything. And you have to be, and you're okay with that. But a lot of us hold on to our beliefs and our concepts and our ideas of how we should live life and what we should and shouldn't do and how we should raise children and how we should be in a marriage. We have all that and it's all got to go. Because otherwise you're just clinging to something outside of yourself. And that's just suffering. I'm sorry, but that's what makes your day sometimes really sad. That's why you go up and down. So, yeah. It doesn't mean that, I don't get what happened the other day? Oh, my son said something and it was like, oh. But then it's gone again. Doesn't stay. And if there's anything like that, I do stop and I sit with it. And I'll be responsible for everything that goes on inside me. Because it's nobody else's fault and there's no other person that can do anything to me except myself. Yeah. So, yeah. That's how it is. Yeah, and I would love for everybody to have that experience. And you don't have to wake up and be a guru, and you don't have to be a Eckhart Tolle or a Muji or any of those people that you watch. It's just doing it. So you can live in the world freely and with joy and happiness. And then that would be great. Yeah. Then we may be able to heal the world. Yeah.